Okay, so now let's look at some compositions. So that means that we're going to perform more than one transformations on these points. So here it says that I'm given RS with these endpoints, find its image after the composition. So this one says I'm going to have a reflection in the y-axis and a rotation 90 degrees about the origin. Okay, so here it is again super important that you remember what these rules are. I know it's been a while since we did reflection, that was last week. So I would recommend going ahead and writing down all of the rules on a piece of paper. So I'd have all your reflections rules, maybe put a title there and write them all down, and then write down your rotation rules so that when you're going through this homework assignment, you have that right there so you know what those rules are. So for the reflection in the y-axis, that rule was that I'm going to have a negative x, y. And then the rule for 90 degrees about the origin was a negative y, x. So I'm going to start with point R. And I'm going to take R through both of these transformations. So I'm going to first reflect it. I'm going to write that rule up right above this arrow. So I'm taking negative xy because I'm reflecting it in the y-axis. So that means negative x, so I'm going to take the opposite sign of x, which this one's positive, so now it's going to become negative. And then y stays the same. And now with my new point, I am going to do my second transformation. So I noticed on last week's homework, some of you, I think, went back to the original point. You want to make sure you use this new point when making the second transformation. So for this one, I'm doing negative yx. And so that means I am switching these around, but I want to take the opposite sign of y. So since this one's a positive or negative 3, now it's going to become a positive 3, and then my x stays the same. Okay, and now I want to do the same thing with the next point. So I have s to negative 6. I'm going to reflect it in the y-axis first. So I'm going to have negative xy. So I want to take the opposite sign of my first coordinate. So now it's going to be a negative 2. And then again, now I'm going to use this new point to do my second transformation. So I want to rotate this new point 90 degrees about the origin. So that rule is negative yx. And so when I do that, the opposite sign of negative 6 is a positive 6, negative 2. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try and find the rules for reflection, the y and the x-axis, and the rotation of 180 degrees, and try and do this transformation. Okay, so the answers you should have gotten were R double prime was negative 1, negative 3, and S double prime was negative 2, negative 6. So the rule for the reflection, the x-axis, is x negative y. The rule for the rotation of 180 degrees is negative x, negative y. And so again, I took my first point, I did the reflection, and then now I use this new point to do my rotation. So again, I started, this point came from the previous. Okay, let's look at one last one. So now I am given AB with endpoints as such, and now I'm going to find its image after the composition. So here we actually have a translation followed by a rotation. So this rotation is 270 degrees about the origin, so that rule is y negative x. So I'm going to start with my point A, negative 4, 4. And my first transformation is I want to translate it. And that is telling me I'm going to subtract 2 from my x, so I'm going to have negative 4 minus 2. And I want to subtract 1 from my y, so I have 4 minus 1. Well, negative 4 minus 2, I get negative 6. 4 minus 1, I get 3. And now I need to go to my second translation. or transformation. This one's a rotation. So I now want to rotate this point that I just found 270 degrees about the origin. And so that rule is y negative x. So that means I am switching my negative 6 and 3, but I want to take the opposite sign of my x. And so the opposite sign of negative 6 will be a positive 6. Okay, now we want to do the same thing with the next point. So again, I want to, for my first transformation, I want to subtract 2 from x. So I have negative 1 minus 2. And then subtract 1 from y. So I have 7 minus 1. And when I simplify that, I get negative 3, 6. And now I need to do my rotation. And so I know my rule I'm using is y negative x. So I am going to take this b prime, switch it around, and when I do that, I get 6. Opposite sign of negative 3 is a positive 3. Okay, that's it for this video. You can go ahead and move on to the homework if you want to see some extra examples. Those are linked below. But otherwise, have a great day.